start with a forearm test, and so we'll assess through the forearm. The idea of this is to create some sort of context in the upper back. So remember, when we do an upper body treatment, it's not about the hands, but the indicators of all the things going around from the rib cage up into the neck and into the shoulders. So palms and forearms together, body's nice and tall. You don't have to have the elbows high, just bring your forearms together. Take a nice deep breath, inhale, exhale. Notice if you have any pulling, tension, tightness in the chest or shoulders or the mid-back. Open the palms out, and you're looking for a nice line, like as if your body's making a T, your hands are making a T. This can have something to do with the elasticity in the forearms. It can have lack of strength in the forearms, a lack of tension, or a lack of integrity is what it's called, which is the ability to cross the barriers of tissue. And then go ahead and palms back together and lower the arms back down. Then, kind of like our foot, when we have our foot on the ball, we're going to do test the hand. So you're looking for grounding, you're looking for consistency, you're looking for how your thumb wraps around the ball. You can look at your hand and go, oh yeah, it wraps around the ball. Or you can notice your fingers are all squinched over the other. Maybe there's pain in your thumb. You can wrap the ball around without using your thumb at all. You can even just use your fingers and see how that feels. So you don't have to get the biggest squeeze that you need and then switch and do the other side. So again, if you kind of know there's pain someplace, you don't have to just keep sticking your finger in it and trying to find it. You know it's there. So you're not necessarily always trying to drive to the pain. You're trying to actually drive to the cool looking spots, you know? Go around. Oh, look at that. Feel the pinky finger. Feel something else. Pretty fancy. Yeah. So I did that. And
I can't do it.
You're right. You can't. No. This is why I'm up here.
I know. She is. You feel lucky.
And then go ahead and take the ball and place it down onto the ground. Place your palm down over the ball and just compress slightly. The key here on wrist and hand treatments is not to compress straight down into flexion, but to have a little bit of extension in the wrist. So you're just pressing down and just kind of release the palm and press down and release. And one more time, press down and hold. And then release. Good. Move the ball to position 0.5, which is underneath the thumb, and then you're just going to begin the glide back and forth. So it's a nice even movement, so your fingers stay on the ground. If you want to, you can put your middle finger to middle finger and move that ball back and forth. That creates that nice continuity and movement and that evenness back and forth. So you're trying to have the same pattern to the right and to the left. Back and forth. And again, it's not about pushing the ball down. It's about finding that evenness of pressure, just like when we have on the base of the foot, we have that evenness of pressure. And then pause underneath the thumb. Good. Take your other hand, place it on top if it's not already there, and you're going to use that top hand to kind of move the bottom hand around a little bit. Create some pressure, some pull on that thumb. Take the top hand off, and then just move that ball like you're kind of rubbing maybe a sticker off of something. You know, when it gets real sticky in there, you have to kind of use your hand and rub away. Or you're cleaning some potatoes, you're rubbing the dirt off of mushrooms. Press. One more time. Press, pause, and release. And then you're going to do rinsing. So knuckle to nail, one direction. Second finger, knuckle to nail, one direction. One direction. So you're not going up and back down the thumb, but you are going to, or any of the fingers. And then, hello. And then go past all the fingers again. So cute. You just come on here. No, not on my lap. Next to you. One more time, and then you're gonna take the ball, and then just do friction. Good. Go ahead and pause. Take the ball in your hands. Bring your forearms together. Open your palms out. Notice if there's just a little bit more ease in that wrist. Close the palms in. Grab the ball and make that fist around the ball. Just notice if it just feels a little bit easier. So when we do the other side, you're going to get a nice feeling, possibly back and forth on both sides. So press down into the ball, release, press down. brother in and you're like, just sit right here next to your little sister and then they'll behave. Good, back and forth. Good, back and forth. Nice and easy. You're not trying to kill the ball, you're just trying to find that even pattern. It's less about how much pressure very often that you put and the consistency of the pressure. Go ahead and pause, put your top hand, you're going to be underneath the pad of the thumb. Press down with the other hand and use the top hand to press the bottom hand a little bit, up and down, and then side to side. Take the top hand off and then just kind of like, again, like you're pushing off, trying to work something out of a mushroom. I don't know why I think of a mushroom, but like when mushrooms, I must clean a lot of mushrooms in my life. I don't know. Did you clean a bunch today? Good, pause. Another way you can do it is you can put them in a brown bag and then shake it up and all the dirt will come off too. That's another way. Go ahead and pause and then release. And then go ahead and then do. Because if you put them in a plastic bag, the water sticks and that kind of stuff. It's not good. Pass the thumb again. Go back through the index finger. Again, you're doing one direction. Knuckle to nail. Pass one more time. Remember, moving in and doing rinsing is like pushing water down something. And as you keep pushing the water, it'll slowly start just passing that way. You know, you can get that water to go further if you just keep on pushing it away. And then all of a sudden the water moves further away than you even started. Go ahead and pause. Oh, so friction, sorry. My examples, and I forgot to do the techniques. All right, go ahead and pause. Bring the forearms together. Now check in with the shoulder to shoulder, with the rib cage, the sternum, the clavicle. Turn the palms open. Notice that if you get a little bit more extension, a little bit more space, close the palms in. Take a big deep breath. Exhale. Notice just a little bit easier across the shoulders and the back. And then release the arms down by your side. Good. Go ahead and, if you borrowed a ball, or you can hold on to it if you'd like. And let's put the ball through. Good. Go ahead and let's get in for a rest assess. So in our rest assess today, we're just going to go through the entire system, just trying to find those areas just like normal. So again, just like when we're doing the assessment and we're really starting with those hands, it's not so much that you're trying to dig into pain and go like, I know my back always hurts, so I'm going to just take all my attention there. Avoid doing that as much as you can, because what you're doing is you're just listening to the loudest voice in the room and you're not really connecting into maybe some subtleties that are going on. Maybe there's something going on in the knee. If we can remember with our idea, remember with the idea of of movement is that we want to get in and get out, but also things that can move, we can do direct or indirect results. So we may be working on our upper back and that may affect the lower body. So don't avoid the idea that maybe it's your upper body that's causing a lower body issue and you just only pay attention to the lower body or vice versa. So our front body or back body or anything like that. So we'll come into the ground to make sure your palms are up towards the sky. Laying back as evenly as you can. Noting that you're not trying to get yourself to even before you notice. You're trying to notice that your body probably is uneven. And it's creating that connection, that self-awareness to produce this self-care technique. And for some of you, just being on the ground in stillness creates tension and creates a little bit of anxiety, whether it's the anxiety of touching the ground, whether it's the anxiety of silence, whether it's the anxiety of what's going to happen, I don't know, which makes me nervous. Just connect for right now where you are in the space that you're taking up right now. You have the full control over whether or not you stay on the roller or get off, how much pressure you put into the roller, what your thoughts are. You can decide to settle, you can decide to restrict. So allow yourself to find that space where you want to find more connection, less over control, and release the control a little bit in the body so you can listen a little bit better. So starting with the head, that first area as part of the Is the weight in your back mostly across the shoulders down to the ribs, or do you feel most of the weight up to the top of your shoulders? Ideally, you should be evenly distributing weight all the way down into your hands, and your head should feel very central to the rest of your body. If you noticed a change, just make a note of it, or notice something that felt off, just make a note of it. And then let's take that attention down to the rib wall. Notice your ribs. Do your ribs feel elevated off the ground? Sometimes if you've been sitting a lot throughout the day, maybe you just got back in from a run or from a big long walk, or you can feel very arched in the upper back. The pelvis can be slightly tilted. You can feel like very bowed in the back. Ideally though, the ribs should feel seated to the ground, and you should have a nice level back all the way down to the navel. From the navel to the lower back, to the pelvis, there should be a small back arch. And then the third area that stuck stress loves to live and really can affect both upper body and lower body is the pelvis. We've got blood flow, femoral blood flow. We've got pelvic floor issues that we might be dealing with. We've got a lot of lymphatics that kind of drain up through or draw up through the pelvis. You've just got stuck stress galore, maybe in arthritis, or maybe you've had a hip surgery, or maybe you've just been real tight and stiff in your glutes. So the pelvis ideally should be pretty level to the ground with even a relatively even weight on both sides of the hips. You may feel the center, but it's relatively even from hip to hip. You ideally should feel the back of your legs, your hamstrings, the calves, and your feet should be equally laying down northeast and northwest, as according to kind of your room. The imbalances that you might feel would be all the weight centered in the sacrum, that triangular space right in the middle of the pelvis. You may feel your pelvis tilted, so the tailbone or the coccyx are pointed towards the ground instead of slightly curled. You might feel more weight on one butt cheek than the other. Hamstrings, you may not notice or may not be able to tell if they're even touching. Even if you stick your hand there, you're like, oh, I didn't even know they were touching. Calves should feel evenly weighted, and feet, of course, ideally they should be northeast and northwest, but if there are a lot of stuck stress in the pelvis, the ankles may feel like they're dropped to the ground, or the toes may be pointed forward, or you may have just some off balance in both feet. And again, this can be mostly perception, because ideally you're looking on the inside, so you're using your body sense over the common senses of touch and sight. Divide the body in half, creating two equal halves from your ankle to your ear on both sides, and notice just that balance on each side. Does one side feel deeper into the ground? Does one side feel longer than the other? Does a right side feel high and a left side feel low? Or a twisting that's happening in the torso or the legs? Take a nice long deep breath. Exhale, and just let yourself center back into the ground. Just another breath or so. Not creating any connection, not deciding any value to these feelings. Just connecting and understanding that they're there, and you're developing an understanding around them. Slide your feet in so your shins are vertical. Roll to one side. Go ahead and grab your roller, and we're going to get up on the roller. So make sure that your hip kind of hikes as you come up on the roller. Lay back. Palms are now down on the ground. If you misalign that position, just get back on and do it again. Good. Palms are down to the ground. Knees are bent now. Keeping the knees as close and the feet in line with each other as best you can, so your feet aren't all splayed out. You want to try to keep your feet relatively close. So if you put your feet all the way together, so knees, ankles, arches touched, and then from there you may keep your big toes touching and moved your heels away from one another, so your ankles make kind of a pyramid, and then level out your ankles with each other, so your ankles, knees, and your hips pretty much line up. And then from there we'll start moving into gentle rocking. And this gentle rocking is, imagine you're in a cradle and you're rolling from side to side. You're not rolling within the cradle, you're rolling with the cradle. And so the roller is connecting into your spine, giving information. And maybe that information is a lot of information. Maybe you need to move your hands so your hands are resting on your belly so you're not rolling too much. Or maybe your head's doing more work than your body and it feels like a big S. Or your hips are shifting more than your rib cage and your body's kind of moving kind of off position. Just see if you can gently rock to the right and lift and gently rock back to the left and come back to center. Breathe and gently roll and gently return. You may notice your head, your shoulders, the entire length of your spine touching the roller. And ideally it should just feel like it's evenly touching the roller. If you have sharp areas or you're already tensing or you're having a difficult time breathing and restoring and relaxing, try to move less. Just allow yourself to enjoy just being off the ground a little bit. Breathe. Take your hands, place them on your belly. Let your thumbs rest at your navel and your index finger touch the top of the base of the pelvis. Let the heels and the sides of the hands just as you inhale, feel the belly. As you exhale, tuck the pelvis so you're beginning to imprint the spine. Then again, inhale, exhale, tilt the pelvis back to level. Again, inhale, exhale, tuck. Inhale, exhale, and tilt. Now this practice of this rebalance sequence, continue on with your tuck and your tilt. Allow this movement to go slow. Allow the body to feel as you tuck, because you're pulling on the base of the neck, you're pulling in the pelvis. Are you overusing your glutes or even allowing yourself to use your glutes? Are you trying to jam your back in and tighten up? If it's too much instability being up on the roller, let your elbows drop and let your shoulders settle. Just let your pelvis easily tuck and easily tilt. You're not trying to force this. This shouldn't be I don't want this to feel like this is a real challenging thing. Just allow it to happen. Doing less than more is okay. You can always get better or do different with this. And then gently bring one hand to your chest and leave one hand on your belly. And see if you can breathe just into the space in between your hands, not into your chest and not billowing into your belly. When you breathe into your diaphragm actually draws down and around the outside of your abdomen. And then exhale, it moves back up into your body cavity, moving away from the organs. So the best movement that the diaphragm can do as you inhale is it compresses the organs slightly, a little squeeze. As you exhale, it releases and they get to spring back into place. Take your hands, reach them out towards your knees, palms facing one another, thumbs back towards your head. So your hands are just about a finger's distance away from the top of your thighs, and then reach further, pulling your shoulders away from the roller, and then let your shoulders drop back. And then again, reach further towards your knees, and then back. So your arms aren't moving wider as they do this, they're just tracking alongside your shoulders. You're just feeling the pull from the back side of the body, and then back down. One more time, reach away from the roller, let the shoulders drop, and then begin to open the arms away from the midline of the body. Exhale, bring your hands together. Now focus in on where the hands are going. So you're not trying to raise the arms towards the head. So let the arms drop. Kind of if you let them drop all the way, they would be kind of an A-frame to the body. And then bring the fingertips to touch. Pull the fingertips apart. Just let them float away from each other. And exhale. And one more time. Pull those fingers apart from each other. Let your arms rest just above the ground. And then bend the right wrist and curl the left wrist. Let the elbows slightly bend so there's not a stiff, straight arm. There's a little bit of release in the biceps. as you drop the other. And then let the elbows drop, but the forearms are still up. It's like you're holding the weight of maybe 2 avocados in your hands, so nothing really heavy, just kind of evenly weighted in the hands, but the elbows are touching the shoulders. There's a little bit of a tensional pull in the chest and shoulders. And then reach the arms straight away from there. So your arms go straight, your fingers extend out, your thumbs open up, just get long through from left arm to right arm, and then begin to bring those arms together so your fingers touch. Bringing both arms overhead just until you lose your arms in eye line, and then circle the arms around. And then take the arms up and over your head and circle the arms around. 2 more times. Take those arms slowly overhead and circle the arms around. And last time, arms up and overhead and circle the arms around. Take your right arm just overhead and then switch and just take your left arm straight up and overhead. Right arm goes, so single arm reach. See if you can straighten the fingers, almost like pulling from every single finger. And then reach. Anybody ever see Time Bandits? Years ago, there was the bad guy in Time Bandits, has these fingers and lightning bolts would come out of his fingers. Time Bandits, great Halloween movie. Kids like it, kind of time travel kind of a thing. John Cleese is in it. It's good. No, really, it's good, guys. And then again, one more time. Take that right hand down by your side, and then bring the left hand down too. Bring your hands down to the ground. Just let your shoulders drop. Just even notice how your body just settles into the roller even nicer after you just slowly move the body. Slide the right or left leg out, roll to that side, and then move the roller out from underneath you. We'll just come into a rest, reassess. Arms are out, shoulders are back, legs extended out. Take a breath or 2. You may notice that kind of that divot up the middle of your back. It should just descend and go away in a moment. But then we'll re-notice where the head feels the head weight. If the head is a little bit more centrally weighted behind the bridge of the nose and a little bit less crunched down or a little bit less tilted back. Taking your attention to the shoulder girdle across the shoulders into the hands. Notice if you feel more even, more the weight more balanced between your shoulders down into your sternum. And now take your attention into your rib wall. Notice those ribs down to the pelvis. Maybe you even actually feel a back arch now where it was like, oh, I didn't even feel any back arch before. But maybe there's a back arch that now just developed from your navel to your pelvis, and that might feel a little odd. Remember, you should have curve to your spine. It's not one straight spine. And then your pelvis. If your pelvis feels a little bit more level, or maybe just feels more grounded into the ground. Hamstrings touching, calves, and then feet resting out. Dividing the body in half. Do the 2 sides of the body, or are they becoming more balanced with each other? Let's go ahead and slide those feet in so the shins are vertical. Shift your weight to one side, bring yourself up, and let's take that roller to the top of the back. So you're kind of making that roller come to the top of the shoulders. The idea here is to have the shoulders just above and just kind of within the top of the roller. So they're slightly on your butt side of the roller. They're not all the way over the top of the roller. Hands are out by your knees, but you can lift your pelvis and kind of tuck your pelvis so your ribs stay down and your pelvis is almost flat to the ground. Reach your arms, kind of punch them forward, and then take your arms wide and behind your head. Now, if this is a lot of tension for your neck, move the roller down or up towards your head. Your butt goes down and more of your back is supported by the roller. From here, you're just going to inhale, let the elbows drop back, and lay your torso back. So you're not trying to release your rib cage. You're actually just coming to level over the roller. You're not trying to look like you're trying to go behind the roller or to the ground. Notice what's going on in the shoulders, maybe the armpits, maybe the neck. The ribs just want to just tighten up right here. Big deep breath into that upper back. Exhale. See if you can relax the shoulders. Inhale, bring your head up just a tiny bit. tilt your body toward your right side. So imagine that your back, where your hands are, is kind of a big steering wheel. So you're just tilting your right armpit towards your right hip without shifting your hips off center. And then inhale, center, and do the same thing to your left side. So again, it's not about twisting or doing kind of like, you bring your elbow across to your knee for like some sort of bicycle move and for core work. Just kind of tilt to one side, and one more time, tilt to the right now. Take your right hand, reach it around to your left rib wall if you can touch it, and breathe into the rib cage and feel your hand move. Feel if you have tightness in that rib wall. Make sure your weight of your head is in your hand, and then take your hand behind your head again, bring your head center. Tilt over to your left, take your left hand, reach it across the midline. Feel your ribs as you take in a couple of breaths. And then bring yourself back to center, bring your hand behind your head. Move that roller all the way to the top of the shoulders, and then just begin to roll the roller back and forth, 2 inches forward, 2 inches back. So it's not a lot, so it's not a deep roll. You're not trying to get down to the base of your rib cage, just forward and back. Then drop the pelvis around the upper back a little bit, pin the elbows around the ears, and begin to kind of twist back and forth. Now key here is don't move the pelvis, just move the upper back. Pause. Lift the hips up, just move the roller down about 1 inch or 2. Lift the hips up, let the elbows widen, and again, move 2 inches forward, 2 inches back. You're about, a couple of inches below where you started from before. Go ahead and pause with the roller down lower into its spot. Drop the pelvis, pin the ears, and again, push the back into the roller and tip back and forth, side to side. And pause, and then lift the hips up. Move the roller another inch or so back. Lift the hips up, and then again, elbows are nice and wide, and again, you're just going about 2 inches forward and about 2 inches back. Return to where you just started. Pause, round the upper back, pin the elbows, and again, slight twist side to side, pinning one of those little vertebrae into the roller. Make sure you're not going too quickly. Settle the movement, and then pause. Bring your roller all the way back to the top of the shoulders. So the elbows are just the last thing before you go over your head and your shoulder and your elbows. Lift the hips up as high as you can, creating kind of a rounding of your upper back, a J, as you push your legs straight and then go towards the base of your ribs. Try to go nice and slow. Remember, we're talking about speed hides need. Speed hides the ability for the body to really notice and for you to make connection to what's going on in the body. So lift those hips up, and I want you to go slow, like you're pulling down wallpaper off of a wall slowly. And if you pull too hard, one section of that wallpaper will stay there and you'll have to get out the ziff. And that's a hassle. Walk those feet in, lift the hips up one more time, push into the roller, nice good rinse, press down, let the hips drop, and pause. Walk those feet in so the heels are underneath the knees again, and then make those arms go back out. So notice if you're back in that same position that you started in, take your hands once again behind the head and then lower over the top of the roller. Take a big deep breath. Notice if you can go further than you did the first time. And then back up, and then tilt to your left, opening that right rib wall. Big deep breath. Turn to your center and turn to your right. Breathing, opening up, and then back to center. Take those hips, lift them, tilt your hips to your right side, take your right hand out towards your left knee, and then begin to roll the right shoulder. So your right shoulder, don't move anything else, Jeff. Just your right shoulder moves. Breathing. Nice and slow, nice and slow. Reach out, take that right elbow up and over and up and back. Up and over and up and back. One more time, up and over. Take that right hand to the back side of your ear and roll towards the side of your arm. So your left hand is still behind, your right hand is on the roller. You can hold your roller, or you hold your head into the top hand, and you're just lifting your ribs up. So your head's not too low, guys. You should keep your head up. Your bottom hand isn't really holding your head. It's just kind of hanging out there. So you're kind of on the inside of the shoulder. Breathing. You're lifting the ribs and letting the ribs drop. The head stays level. Breathing. Pause. Now roll more towards the roller, this time letting the head rest on the hand. Take the top hand and you're going to go like you're going to go to sleeps. And then you're going to again, now you're on the outside of the shoulder. Slow. Pull the shoulder underneath you. Let the shoulder come out. Pull the shoulder down. Drop. One more time. Lift the ribs and drop. You're going to turn one more time in a little bit deeper. You're turning towards the roller. You can place your head on your hand and you're now going to the outside. Your other hand is on the ground, kind of in front of you, and you're on the outside, kind of on the upper part of the biceps, if not the outside of the shoulder. Breathing. And then pause. Lift your top knee, or roll back on your back. You're now back on your upper back. Take your hands behind your head. Move the roller to the upper part of your shoulders. Lift your hips. Push your back into the roller. Good. Walk your feet in. One more time. Lift the hips up. Push the back into the roller. Now, if you've ever used a half roller, that rolling pattern won't really work. You can do kind of the movements on the roller, but doing the side stuff, doing the rolling, that big rolling won't work. So let's go to the other side. Just changing positions so I don't have to change the position of the camera. Good. Bring your hands behind your head. From here, you're going to lift the hips up, drop them. Your left hand is out by your knee, and then you're going to roll your shoulder. So nothing else is moving except for my arm. I want to make sure everything stays stationary. Reach out, pull back. Scuff the bottom of that shoulder. Pause, reach out, take that left elbow up and over. So I'm almost on my right shoulder, guys. I'm not hardly at all on my left shoulder. Breathing. Up and over. One more time. Up and over. 3/4 of the way back, and just roll a little bit. Just keep shifting just a little bit. And now we're just kind of a little bit on the inside or the outside edge of that shoulder. And you're just nudging that shoulder into the roller. Head is back in the hands. You're almost tilted back slightly. One more time. And then lean further forward. So now you're on your side and your hands are like a pillow. And you're kind of lifting your rib cage up and then down. Lift the ribs up. Let the head drop slightly. One more time. Lift the hips up and drop. Then shift a little bit further forward. Your head is on your hand, which is on the roller. Right hand is on the ground, and you're moving the outside. Now you're kind of coming to a little squinched up body, pulling your torso towards your knees more. Pause. Lift your top knee. Roll back on your back. Bring your hands behind you. Come back into that original position. Tuck that pelvis, hands back, lay back over the roller. See if you get even a little bit more space. Maybe those arms, those shoulders, those armpits don't feel as tight and pulled in. Bring your head and chest up. Tilt to your left. Notice if that rib wall feels a lot looser. Back to center, to the other side. Tilt over. And then back to center. Good. Pause. Drop one elbow, and let's just come back to the ground. We'll do a reassess real quick here. Laying back on your roller, legs out, arms out. So make note that we did no lower body work. I mean, we're on the roller, we're doing that. But there's no specific lower body treatment. We focused almost exclusively upper body. But I want you to take your attention first to the pelvis. I want you to notice if your pelvis feels a little bit more level, less tension, less pull in your lower back, and maybe your hamstrings are touching. Maybe your calves are more evenly weighted than they were before. Maybe your feet feel like, oh, they just kind of feel nice and turned out. That would be a great result if you're all the way down to your feet feels nice and easy. So that would be an indirect before direct. So an indirect, we worked on the upper body, but the hips got they got a lot of benefit from it. Now we go to direct, so the upper back. Do the arms feel like they're evenly weighted from hand to hand across into the ground? Does the head feel pretty level on the ground? Do the rib wall expand evenly with less high back arch, or any arching that's happening, there's no tension or pain or pulling? And then divide the body in half, feel the two equal sides, and notice if you have balance on both sides. Take a nice long deep breath, and exhale. From here, go ahead and slide those feet in so the shins are vertical. Shift your hips off to one side, and let's roll ourselves up.
And we